Hey everybody, it's Smoothie King Roger Wilder, a state representative in Louisiana. Last time I saw him, he was being incredibly weird about 16 and 17-year-olds. How weird, you might ask?
I think our young adults, because when I hear the word minor, I think of an 8 or a 9-year-old. When I hear 16 and 17-year-old, I think of a young adult. I believe that our young adults can make decisions without a babysitter.
That weird. Roger is sponsoring a bill to remove labor protections for minors. As part of his argument, he's putting forth the idea that 16 and 17-year-olds are more mature than people give them credit for, and as such, don't need special labor protections. Anyway, do you think between the hearing where he said that and the floor debate, he found a better way to express this idea?
And the other thing, I use the word young adults, and I'm going to clarify. I coached, and any high school coach that I've ever dealt with has used the word young adults instead of old kids. I treated my children and I treat my team members as capable young adults, or pre-adults, pick your word.
Nope, not even close. Pre-adults sounds worse, actually. It's interesting how Roger has come to this epiphany that 16-year-olds are mature enough to be treated like adults, and his first move is to strip them of labor protections and not give them basic civil rights. You know, like the right to vote, the right to serve on juries, or the right to hold office. No, he went from 16 and 17-year-olds are more mature than you think, straight to they should have less protections in the workplace. I wonder why Roger Wilder, small business owner and employer of minors, would make that leap. But that's enough about the age thing, it kinda grosses me out. Let's get to something that hasn't gotten a lot of attention. How dishonest Roger's been about nearly every aspect of this bill. From the top, Roger Wilder is a state representative in Louisiana. He's also a franchisee of Smoothie King, with about 20 locations in Louisiana and Mississippi. Roger Wilder is trying to repeal revised statute 23:213. It requires at least 20-minute breaks for 16 and 17-year-olds if they work 5 hours and 10 minutes. And that's where Roger Wilder starts lying. Because every time he talks about the law he's trying to repeal, he lies. He keeps saying it's 30 minutes, and it's a little weird, but it says breaks for minors should be 30 minutes long, but it's fine if they are 20. Exact wording on the screen. Wilder keeps saying it's a hard 30 minutes, which is not correct. I mean, you can see it right there, and he's been doing this for a while. When he was running for office, he said he got fined for only allowing a minor a 29-minute break.
But, owning a business is always tough, and we live in a state that doesn't exactly help in business. I have a minor team member that takes a 29-minute break and accidentally clocks in early, and they end up getting fined. I get fined for $1,500 for something so silly. And it's like, are you really trying to help me? I'm not running a sweatshop here.
During a committee hearing on this bill, he also said it was 30 minutes.
They're just forced to ask their minor team members to sit down for a full 30 minutes, don't do anything, because the law says so.
But eventually during the hearing, he tells the truth.
And what's the fine if you don't give that break?
Well, the fine differs. There's a number of pieces in this. So the fine is $500 per occurrence, and then there's been, in the recent years, there's been a number of adjustments made. So it's like, well, if they take a 22-minute break now, it's okay because we amended it to be 20 minutes.
You would think that would be the end of it. He made a mistake, and he'll just say 20 minutes from now on, and that'll be that. But nope. 10 minutes later, and he's back to saying it's 30 minutes.
So for your company, 16, 17, because of the law, have to take a 30-minute break.
Yes, sir.
Mandatory.
Yuppers, please ignore what I just said. It's actually 30 minutes. When it got to the floor, the same thing happened. He said it was 30 minutes at the beginning.
The fact of the matter is, there's a mandate that says you have to sit down for 30 minutes off the clock, and you can't get paid for that time.
But was forced to backtrack when confronted with the facts by Representative Willard on the House floor.
So you don't think that providing kids, because the law says a 20-minute break will suffice, right? You're not violating the law for 20 minutes?
The law has been amended so many times to pacify the ability for this mandate to stay on, fine businesses, and create burdensome paperwork. So yeah, it could be 20 minutes, but if it's 21, now we're in violation. If it's 19, it's so arbitrary. And
well, 21, you wouldn't be in violation. It says it has to be 20 minutes.
Okay, well then I'll give you that. But if they want to take a 10-minute break and clock back on, they can't do that.
I'll give you that. Roger gets caught twisting the truth, and his response is, I'll give you that. And more than that, he tries to play word games, positing a situation where 20 minutes isn't a violation, but 21 minutes is. That's not what the law says, and I know Roger knows what the actual law says because he read the entire thing out, minus one very important part.
Currently, as the law reads, more facts. Sorry, we don't like facts. Number one, as in the law, no minor shall be employed, permitted, or suffered to work any 5-hour period without one interval of at least 30 minutes within. But then it goes on to say such intervals shall not be included and cannot be included as part of the working hours of the day. And this interval needs to be 30 minutes.
Oops, Roger left out the next part. Allow me to keep reading. If the length of the meal break is at least 20 minutes, the difference between the actual break time and the required 30-minute break time shall be considered de minimis and shall not be considered a violation of this section. I've highlighted the parts Roger read, and you can see very clearly he stopped reading right before the part about 20 minutes. I wonder why the guy who was complaining about how people don't like facts left out a pretty important one. In fact, he didn't just mention it once, he went on a rant about how everyone else was being dishonest and how he was gonna be the truth teller.
There's been an interesting media narrative filled with a bunch of word drama, misinformation, and probably disingenuous at best. So here's what I'd like to do today. I'd like to cover a few facts, F-A-C-T-S, about this particular repeal attempt and what this bill is aiming to do.
You'd think someone so self-righteous about the truth would be more concerned about getting things right, but as you'll see, this isn't the only time Roger plays fast and loose with the facts. You see, Roger also premised another of his arguments on the law saying that lunch breaks for minors had to be 30 minutes long and not 20. You see, schools have 20-minute lunches.
The law's got a hypocrisy to it. Right now, minors that are 16 or 17 or young adults, pick your synonym, go to school for 7 or 8 hours a day. I stopped at 12 state schools that have 25, 22-minute lunch breaks.
The logic being that if schools can give 20-minute lunches, but businesses have to give 30-minute lunches, well, that's unfair or hypocrisy or something. Actually, when Roger made this argument, no one respected it enough to even address it, which sounds right to me, but seems to have made him a little mad.
I find it interesting that nobody really wants to challenge the high schools that have kids in a classroom for 8 hours, give them a 22-minute lunch break, and some of these kids go to football practice for 3.5 hours after. But in the school system, it's okay to not only violate the 5-hour law that I'm trying to repeal, but you also violate a second part of it after 9 hours. And I'd argue that a football practice is way more intensive than making a sandwich at Subway.
You mad, bro? I mean, businesses are held to 20-minute lunch breaks for minors, and schools are too. I mean, it's in the law that he was literally just reading, so he knows what it says and knows this argument is false. So why is he making it? Anyway, those arguments were transparently false. But what about an argument that is less, transparently false? For example, Roger claims to have done a lot of research with regards to the effects of requiring businesses to give minors a lunch. He specifically says that he went out on a Sunday to a bunch of restaurants to survey them.
This will remove obstacles and burdens from businesses. I already mentioned to you this whole paperwork tracking if they don't take a break. Half the places I went on Sunday, the shift manager or the manager on duty said, "Nah, we don't hire anybody who's 16 or 17. And they cited this exact reason.
It's interesting that he doesn't list the restaurants, because in my previous video I speculated that he was referring to sit-down restaurants that serve alcohol. Those restaurants usually don't hire minors because minors can't serve alcohol in restaurants. So claiming that lunch breaks for minors is the issue is very misleading. During floor debate, he actually mentions this.
When you go out to eat, how many times have you gone to Chili's and half the restaurant has tables that are open, but they tell you got to wait for an hour because there's no service staff. There's nobody wanting to work.
It's wildly dishonest to pretend that ending lunch breaks for minors will allow Chili's to staff up, because Chili's probably won't hire minors as waitstaff because Chili's serves alcohol. I could go on. But hopefully you've gotten a pretty good idea of how dishonest Representative Roger Wilder has been in this relentless push to eliminate lunch breaks for minors. At the end, what we have is some rich businessman who wants to end a law that protects minors by making sure they aren't overworked. He wants to substitute that with a system where if a minor wants a break and the business owner doesn't feel like it, this is their recourse.
My point is, there's a free market. If an individual's working in an establishment that treats them bad in any way, they can resign. So if a team member says, if an employer says, you're not going to get a break because the state doesn't make me, that team member can offer a resignation and leave whatever restaurant in that strip center or whatever GameStop or pick a business, retail restaurant, whatever. They go right next door to the now hiring sign and they apply.
Which sounds like a pretty garbage system. And if you think so too, contact members of the Louisiana Senate and let them know they should vote no on this bill. Because while this bill may have cleared the House, it still has to clear the Senate. I'm History Sock, and I'll see you at the next committee hearing.